Good afternoon, everybody. As Steve said, my name is Alex Camilio, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the importance of mobile, why it is so important to us, and what we can do about it to capitalize on these new mobile consumers. So we have become a multi-screen society. Right? We use a number of different devices, everything from laptops to desktops to smartphones to tablets to ebook readers to connect to the outside world. And in fact, 90% of all media interactions are split between those devices. 90%. That leaves 10% of media interactions for things like newspaper, radio, magazines, flyers, things like that. 10% of our media interactions. And in fact, we spend about 4.4 hours a day of our leisure time split between those four devices. It's kind of amazing to think about that 90% of our media interactions and 4.4 hours of our leisure time every day are split between those. And guess what? Only 10% is between radio, newspaper, and magazine. So how have these consumers gone mobile? How have things changed? Well, interestingly enough, a 2011 study said that by 2013, so by this year, phones are going to overtake computers as the #1 device to access the internet. #1 device to access the internet, meaning more people will be finding your content and making their first interaction with you from a mobile device. Think about that for a second. How much time and effort and energy do you guys spend on your websites on a daily basis, if not daily, weekly basis, thinking that that's the first place that people are going to go? Well, guess what? Not anymore. People are now finding your content starting on a smartphone. In fact, mobile searches have grown by 4 times since 2010. We're actually, that was the stat from last year. We're actually at 8 times since 2010 right now. Beyond which, there will be one mobile device for every single person on Earth by 2015. 2 years, there will be one mobile device for every single person on Earth. Now, the fun part is, after doing this for a number of years, we get to make some predictions and then hopefully see some of them come true. Well, that 2011 stat that I was just talking about, guess what? It came true early. Mobile phones overtook computers over the last year. And in fact, smartphones are the most common place for starting internet activities. So everything from surfing the web to finding local information to shopping online to planning a trip, all of these different things in years past started on a computer. But guess what? Now they're all starting on mobile devices. In fact, searching for information, 65% of people that are searching for information start that search on their smartphone. 60% of them then continue onto a PC, and 4% continue onto a tablet. That's kind of amazing to think about, right? 65% started on a smartphone. Now, we understand that these consumers are, starting on a smartphone, are using smartphones more and getting your information. But the thing is, they expect a lot from you. When you're delivering that content to them, they are expecting a lot. And in fact, here's some real key reasons that you want to go mobile. If 65% and all these percentages of people that are using mobile devices didn't convince you, well, guess what? It has a real effect on your business in terms of delivering mobile content for people. The first one, and this one's huge, 57% of people would not recommend a business with a bad mobile website. 57%. And in real estate, this is particularly interesting because, as we all know, this is a referral business. How many of your leads, how many of your sales come to you because of referrals? Well, guess what? 57% of people would not recommend you or your business if you do not have a mobile website. And in fact, 40% have turned directly to a competitor's site after having a bad mobile experience. If they don't find what they're looking for immediately, they're going to find somewhere that they can get that information. Now, I always like to talk about a younger generation a little bit because obviously first-time home buyers, there's a big market that's coming due in terms of a younger generation. But the younger generation tends to search for information a little bit differently. And what I mean by that is the younger generation has an understanding of what is ideal. We understand that, guess what? If I get to a website or I get to a mobile site and it doesn't have what I want, I have an understanding that there is an ideal out there and I can go find it, right? I can go find that ideal. Years past, 5 years ago or so, when people weren't really sure that ideal existed and they found your site, they're more likely to stick around because they didn't really know what was ideal. But people are getting savvy and they're starting to understand that if they can get a better solution out there, they know how to find it. Now, this last one, I always like to do a show of hands. I think this number is higher than it really is. 23% of adults have cursed at their phone when a site doesn't work. I know that's me right here, I'd do it. Right? Most people do. I don't know where they got that 23 from. But that being said, these mobile consumers, they expect a lot from you. They expect that the way you deliver that content is going to be, as I said before, ideal. Now, let's think about how these consumers interact with you, okay? 95% of them have searched for local information. That's right, 95% of smartphone users have searched for local information. Beyond that, 61% of users will call the business, and 59% will visit the business. 90% act within 24 hours. Meaning if they find your content on their phone and they enjoy it, 90% of them act within 24 hours. Now, if we were a shoe store, I know what you're all thinking, right? If we're a shoe store, that's great. They come in, they buy the pair of shoes, and they move on. What we mean in terms of act in real estate is that they contact you. They get in touch with you. Because when they're doing that search on their phone, it is a hot button item for them. They are ready to act on it. They're not months or years out on a purchase. They are doing it in the short term, and they need that information immediately. Beyond that, 70% have compared product reviews, product prices on their phone. 65% have read product reviews, and 50% of searches from a smartphone lead to purchase. That's amazing. That goes along with that 90% act within 24 hours number. What it tells us is that when people really are looking for that information on their smartphone, they are ready to act. They are ready to move forward. They are ready to contact you. Now, this brings us to the point of how do we deliver this content? How do we serve up this content for them so that it's ideal, so that it's the best thing out there? Well, interestingly enough, for years now, there has been a debate. Do we build an app or do we build a mobile website? Right? Everyone for a couple years was really excited about apps. Everyone's got to have an app, right? I got to have my name on it. I got to have an app. That's the way to go. Guess what, though? That's not really what consumers are looking for. In fact, 81% prefer mobile websites over apps for researching prices. 81% prefer mobile websites over apps for researching prices. 79% prefer it for product reviews, and 63% prefer it for purchasing. Okay? Now, the second two, not so much, but I don't know one person that isn't looking at prices when they're looking for a home, right? So 81% of them prefer mobile websites. Now, that doesn't mean apps are not important or shouldn't be used or don't have a place in mobile marketing. All I'm here to say is that when you're doing that debate of do I get one, do I get the other, can I get both, there is an ideal solution, and folks are actually preferring mobile websites. Now, One of the reasons that they really prefer mobile websites, and we will go into this in a lot more depth, but when people are looking for information on their phone, what's the first thing they do? Do they go to an app store? Do they go, oh, I need information in this local area, I'm going to go download an app and then maybe that'll give me what I'm looking for? No, thank you. They Google it. 81% of all search results or search engine results are Google. They really control the market. And as you've heard, they've become their own word. They Google it. That's how people are finding content, especially when they're out on the road. So it makes more sense to deliver up content to them on a mobile website, simply in that that's how people are finding your information. Now, as I said, these consumers expect a lot from you. They expect a lot. And in fact, 60% expect that mobile website to load in 3 seconds or less. 3 seconds. You got 3 seconds for that mobile website to load for them to actually be able to use it and keep on being interested in using it. 71% expect it to load as fast as a desktop site. Now, a lot of us will have 4G or these, be on Wi-Fi, and that's a reasonable expectation. But over the last couple years, for folks that are still on 3G, that are on a little bit slower network, that's not easy to do, especially if you're trying to just cater your website to make it work. Beyond that, 78% will try it 2 times or less if it does not load initially. That means you have 2 opportunities right off the bat. They find you, you have 2 opportunities for that thing to load within a few seconds or as fast as the desktop site, or these people are gone. Not to mention, 57% wouldn't recommend your business if they don't like it, and 40% of those will just write onto a competitor's site. That is astounding to think of, that this is what the end consumer expects from you. This is what they expect you to deliver. So how do we do it? How do you deliver it? Right? These all sound like a difficult thing to do. How do you deliver it? Well, personally, we like to break it down into essentially 3 categories. Okay? The first category is creating the mobile presence. The second category is marketing that presence. And then the third is tracking it and adjusting it and making it work based on the results that you're getting. So, point 1, what do you need to do to create it? What is a mobile website? What is this platform, and how do you create it? Well, you want to focus on a few things. The first thing is easy access. The second is easy navigation. And the third is easy interaction. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to get to your content. You then want to make sure it's as easy as possible to navigate throughout the site and get where they want to go. Right? You want to make it thumb-friendly. All right, show of hands. How many folks, and I'm going to guess it's everybody, but how many folks have gone to a website from their phone and had to zoom in and scroll around and move all over the place, right? I know I have. Is that enjoyable? Are you guys going to stay there, keep using that over and over again? Probably not. So that's the easy navigation piece. You want to make sure that it is comfortable and easy to navigate throughout the site. And last but not least, you want easy interaction. You want to make sure that folks can interact with you, call you with one touch, email you with one touch, add your contacts to their phone with one touch. Think about this, make them type as little as possible. The more you make someone type, the less they're going to interact with you on their phone. So make them type as little as you possibly can. Some of the things your mobile website should have, first of all, your colors, your brand, your logo, okay? This should not be you on someone else's mobile site somewhere else. This is your brand, and you want that to stand out. The next big one is MLS data. 95% of property searches start online. I'm sure we've all heard this one from NAR, right? 100 times at this point. But they start online. And as we've seen here today, not only do they start online, they're starting on mobile devices. So you want to make sure that you are giving them MLS data. You're giving them information that they can easily search. Okay? Beyond that, you want your agent photos, you want your contact information, your office information, your social media. The thing is, in years past, we thought of mobile as a, you know what, it's a quick, people want to get my phone number and that's it, sort of a search. What we're coming to find out now is that people are not only starting their searches on a smartphone, but they're continuing to stay on smartphones and use those sites for a significant amount of time. And we'll go over a lot of that in terms of the tracking and how you adjust that. But that being said, that's a reason you want to give them as much information as you possibly can. And in fact, you should mirror the information you have on your equivalent desktop, a regular website, onto your mobile solution. So, a few things to keep in mind. You definitely want a branded mobile website, and we've talked about that. The next thing you want to look for is a tablet view or a tablet-specific site. How many folks here have tablets? Awesome. I love seeing that. So when I say a tablet-specific view, I think you can see on the top right-hand corner there that on tablets, we're a little bit more comfortable when things set up left-right. Okay? It's still a touch interface. It's still easy to interact with, but it sets up in a way that's comfortable for someone using a tablet. So keep that in mind. That's something you want to hopefully get if you're getting a mobile solution is a tablet-specific view, because we are seeing a lot of consumers using tablets as another place to start their search. The next thing is some useful features. You always want lead capture, right? We've heard a lot about lead capture. I'm sure over the last 5, 10 years, 20 years, in terms of getting those people's contact information to you, okay? However, keep in mind that on a smartphone, you want to avoid some things. And what you want to avoid is requiring people to log in or give up their contact information. Now, there are a lot of websites out there that you get to and you go to one page and then it says, you know, you have to log in or you have to give up contact information. And for a regular desktop website, when you're sitting at a computer and you're typing, that's fine. That's comfortable. That's easy for me to do. When I'm on a smartphone and I have to fill in my email and my first name and my last name and my phone number and all this different information to just get your content, what am I going to do? Is that ideal? No, it's not ideal. And in fact, it's so not ideal, I'm going to go somewhere else. So what you want to do is you want to think about the value proposition. You want to give that person as much value as you possibly can. Because guess what? Once you've delivered that value, that information, they're more likely to sign up. Now sure, you might get a few less signups, but I guarantee all the people that sign up with you are better leads, are people that are more interested in talking with you because they've spent 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes browsing through your site, getting the information that they need. And then they go, wow, if this person has given me all of this information and all of this value and I haven't even met them yet, I think I might want to meet them. I think I might want to get their information and talk to them about starting the buying or selling process. So keep that in mind. The next big one that we suggest having is integrated Google Maps. Now, there are a number of different mapping services, MapQuest, Bing, so on. Google is still by far the best, no question. Everything from Street View to directions. I mean, you could go right on down the list in terms of the quality. But the problem a lot of mobile solutions out there have is that if you want to go to a map or you want directions, they send you off to the Google Maps app or off to the Google Maps mobile website, right? They say, okay, go over there and deal with your directions. The problem is that 50% of people, now this is for your desktop site, 50% of people that you send away from your desktop site somewhere else won't come back. On mobile, that jumps to 67% of the people that you send somewhere else don't come back. So don't give them a reason to leave. You want every feature, every tool integrated into your system so they never end up leaving. That's how you want to deliver that content to people. Last but not least, one thing you really want to see from a mobile solution is nearby searching. You want to be able to search for properties in and around you because that is the most used search when you are on a mobile device. People will type stuff in and use all different types of searches out there, but the nearby search, near to me search, that's the key. And that's what people use consistently more than the other searches when they're on their phones. So make sure the systems you have deliver that for you. Next thing is keep the buyer in mind. I cannot tell you how many calls we get of this feature would be great for my agents. Well, that's awesome, but your agents only account for 3% of your mobile website's usage. So what about the buyer? What about the seller? How do we keep those people in mind in terms of content? Well, you might want to promote your featured listings, but also understand that they might want to search the rest of the MLS. They might want to get all of the other data that's out there. So just, as I said, keep it in mind that this system that you develop for these folks is A, marketing, and B, a tool for your buyers and your sellers, not necessarily a tool that is delivered to an agent in terms of feature sets. The next thing is access. How do we get to the mobile site? How do we get there? How do we get people there, right? The first one is what we like to call device redirect or intelligent redirect. And essentially what that does is it's a script that's added to your existing website. It recognizes if folks are traveling there from a smartphone or from a tablet. It says, oh, you're an Android, or you're an iPhone, or you're a BlackBerry. I hope you're not a BlackBerry, but you're a BlackBerry. I'll send you over to the mobile site. That is key, because what that redirect allows you to do is it allows you to continue marketing your existing domain. You don't have to market your mobile separately. You don't have to market it differently than what you're doing. You continue marketing your website, and it caters to them. It delivers the content that they are looking for. So that's number one. The second is applications, right? I know I said people prefer mobile websites. I know, right? How do apps fit in here? Apps are a great tool for client retention. So folks find you on Google, okay? That's how they get to you. They Google it and they find you there. But how do you keep them there? How do you keep them coming back? Well, having an app, having an icon on their home screen is a way that you keep them coming back. And the cool part is that the way you can develop apps now allows you to essentially run the mobile website in real time behind the scenes. So the user interface, what people see, that never changes. So if they download the app, they don't have to learn a whole new system. They don't have to figure out something new. It's the same thing. It's the same design. It's tracked the same. It is 100% identical in terms of functionality, user interface, all of that great stuff. So apps are great for keeping clients with you. They're not that great at people finding you. So keep that in mind in terms of how you want to go ahead with that strategy in terms of finding and then retention. The next is QR codes. And I know everybody's going, well, nobody uses them and this. And I had an interesting time. In fact, I was at a New York City RE bar camp. If you guys ever get the opportunity to go to one, they are awesome. Just a little shout out to the New York City RE bar camps. But we're at the event directly after, and I'm talking with a group of people, and I walk up, and everybody's talking about QR codes. And everybody's saying, boy, they don't really work, and nobody uses them, and this and this and on and on and on, negative about nobody's using them. And I walk into the group and I listen for a minute and I said, all right, raise your hand if you track your QR codes. And I'm the only one there, standing there with my hand raised, because all of them had never tracked them, ever. So then I go, well, how do you know they're not being used? Well, that's just what I've never seen somebody scan one. Okay, great. Keep in mind that unless you're tracking your marketing, you have no idea how people are using it. And the reason I say that is we track all of our clients. We track all of their stats, all of their data. And we're able to see how much traffic to that website comes from QR codes, from all the different marketing that you're doing. We see anywhere from 8 to 10% of website traffic coming from QR codes. In fact, the average is 8.02% this month coming from QR codes. That's kind of amazing, right? Everybody's sitting here going, really? People are using those? Yes, people are using those. In fact, the first client we ever started with is a group called Peabody & Smith Realty in New Hampshire. Great firm, about a 25-agent brokerage, and they decided they wanted to put QR codes on all of their signs, on all their sign writers, and that's how they wanted to get people to interact. So they did. They went out, they put QR codes on all their signs. About a month and a half, almost 2 months later, they get a call. And there's a gentleman who was interested in purchasing a property, and he had scanned one of their QR codes. Well, they brought me in and met the guy, and he said, and I said, well, how did you use it? What made you interested to use it? And he said, I'd been driving by this same house over and over and over on my way from work every day. I'd drive by this house, and from the front, my wife and I, we didn't really like it. Wasn't really a great house for us from the front. But one day, I decided I was going to stop. I'd scan that QR code and see what else there is to offer. Well, they had a nice back porch, they had a beautiful backyard for the kids. They had everything else they needed other than the front of the property. A month later, this guy closed on the house, and as he sat there at the closing, said, I would have never seen this place. I would have never seen this place if you guys didn't put those on your signs. Now, from Peabody's perspective, that's one sale. But guess what? That one sale pays for all their marketing. Everything they had put into it, done right there from one scan. So keep that in mind in terms of usage. But there are some things you can do with QR codes to make you stand out and be different from everybody else. The first of which, as we see here, logo integration. You can add your logo directly to the center of a QR code and stand out from everybody else out there. Now, it's cool. It's every, magazines you see 100 throughout the magazine. If yours can stand out from all those other 100, that's great. But the next big ones are managing and redirecting QR codes. There are services out there that allow you to change where a QR code points to. So if you print a sign, you have it on that QR code on that sign, and that property sells, you can pick up the sign, move it to the next property, reassign that QR code, keep working with it. But having that ability not only saves us a little money in terms of our printing and our signs and that sort of stuff, it also allows us to do something different and interesting with our marketing. It's something that I like to call variable marketing. Variable marketing is the notion, and I guess the best way to talk about this is an example. There's a woman in Kensington Real Estate Brokerage in Massachusetts who uses these and uses them for variable marketing. What she's done is she's put a new spin on an old trick, which is the refrigerator magnet. Now, I'm sure we've all seen varied usage and so on from a refrigerator magnet. No offense to anybody, but if it's just your phone number and your office address, I'm not keeping you on my refrigerator because I can Google that. But she put a QR code on that refrigerator magnet. And she said, scan every Sunday morning for my newest listings. And every Saturday she'd update it. Every Sunday morning, people wake up, they get their cup of coffee, they're sitting there, scan. And now they're sitting Sunday morning looking at properties, casually, leisurely, because you've given them a way to get new content every single time they come back. And that's the key, delivering new content with these QR codes. Last but not least, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is tracking them, understanding how people are using them. But understanding that someone scanned it is not enough. You can track them in such a way that you could put, say, 3 in magazines and 3 in newspapers. And at the end of the month, come back and say, how did my magazines fare against my newspapers? And really target your marketing dollars to where you know you're getting a response. One last comment on QR codes. There's been a lot of debate in the last few years in terms of the QR code versus the texting model, right? Text ABC to 123 and get some information back. And everyone says, well, texting is great because, you know, I get their phone number and I can call them right off the bat. But understand that we are not the first to adapt to technology. These technologies have been adapted in numerous other countries before they get here. QR codes started in Japan. From there, they spread to Western Europe, Spain, England mostly, and then they came over here. And the reason was, and most people don't know this, but the reason is that Japan has lower standards for radioactive emissions. So it was about 3.5, almost 4 years before we had cameras that could even scan QR codes. So right there, we're 3.5, 4 years behind. Well, guess what? We can watch these trends in other countries to see how they adopt this technology and then make decisions on how to respond to that. Well, Japan, rise in QR codes, fall in texting. Year after year, fewer people text, more people scan, year after year. To the point that now you can go into a grocery store, just scan your products in Japan, and they'll deliver it to your car or your apartment for you. You don't even have to pick out products and carry them around and all that sort of stuff. You literally just scan. Now, why did that happen? Why did QR codes take over? Okay? Number one, people got nervous, first of all, about giving away their phone number. They started to understand that if I text this to that, I'm giving away my phone number. That's no good. Second, if I have to type ABC to 123, why wouldn't I just type the website address in? That seems silly, right? If I'm going to type 15 characters anyway, or 10 characters anyway, why wouldn't I just type the website address in? The third big reason that it's starting to fall off, or has fallen off, is that folks are nervous about donating money or giving money or losing money. We've seen so many of those donate, text X to Y to donate $10 to this or that. People get nervous if they don't understand it. And last but not least, my generation, I don't even have an unlimited texting plan because I don't use them. We chat. We're on IM. We are not on text. Text is dying away, and fewer and fewer people are using text because everyone's using data. They're using IM chat programs to talk to one another. So I think I've said enough about QR codes today, just to give you a little bit of an overview. But keep in mind that these can be a powerful tool. Even if it's only 8 or 10% of your traffic, these can be a powerful tool to drive people to your site. One more thing. If you ever, this is a totally free service called drbarcode.com, drbarcode.com. This will teach your clients how to scan QR codes. All you do is you take your phone, you go to drbarcode.com, and it says, oh, you're an Android. Here's the best free app for scanning free, and we're not associated with the apps at all. We just recommend the best free app out there and some basic instructions on how to start scanning. A lot of our clients, as well as we do, we put learn to scan at drbarcode.com, and that really helps the adoption rate in terms of people understanding how to use them. Some other marketing tools we've talked about: SMS texting, property-specific phone numbers. The last two, we could probably do entire sessions on this. Near-field communications, we're about 2 years out from being able to use NFC. I have the Samsung Note 2, and this and the Galaxy S3 are the only two phones on the market right now that include NFC. Actually, no, the Google phone does, the new Google Nexus does as well. NFC, for those folks that don't know, is, you know the mobile speed pass, right? Where you can just take the speed pass and bump it over and you're good to go. It takes care of all your payment. It's like the same thing for your phone. So someone can basically put their phone over your sign, or they can put your phone over another person's phone and share information right there. NFC is definitely the wave of the future and the way we're going to see marketing change. That being said, because there are only like 3 devices out there that even use it right now, we're still a couple years out in terms of the, adoption rate. The last is augmented reality. It's an interesting tool. Augmented reality is the item where you can sort of move your phone over a neighborhood and get, details for properties popping up and things like that. There are a couple problems with augmented reality, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The first problem with AR is that it's a passive experience. If someone scans your QR code, they are going to exactly the page you want them to go to. It's active. You are showing them something. You are giving them marketing. With augmented reality, they have to know that a neighborhood is associated with it, think to take out their phone, think to slide it over these different areas to be able to use augmented reality. So it's a much more passive experience and less in terms of active marketing. The other problem with AR that we've seen is that, and this is one reason that QR codes have stayed popular, is because it is an international standard. Every single QR code out there is set by one standard, and there are apps out there that you can use to scan those QR codes. Augmented reality is not. You could have 40 or 50 different augmented reality apps that all do something a little bit different, that show a little bit different way for properties, and some properties show on one and not on another, and all these different issues in terms of AR. I could go on for a whole session on augmented reality, pros and cons, all that sort of stuff. Keep in mind, it is something out there. Right now, we have not seen much of a return on investment for folks that have been using augmented reality consistently. And it's still a very new technology. So those last two, I wouldn't say to jump into yet, but there are definitely things to think about in terms of the coming years. So that's near field and augmented reality. The next one, the next way that people get to your site, mobile SEO. I'm sure we've all heard those letters a few times, right? SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and understanding how search engines crawl or index or find information on your website. What a lot of folks don't understand, though, is that if you search for something from your phone and you search for it from a computer, you end up with 2 totally different results. It's kind of amazing to think about, right? My device, that's a difference. Well, here's why. Google understands that we all do not want to be in that situation where I have to zoom in and scroll around and move all over the place. They get that. And Google's goal, their job, is they want to give you the best possible search results that they can. Well, if I'm searching from my phone, the best possible search result is not necessarily a site that I have to zoom into or scroll around on. So having a mobile site is key in terms of being able to be found on these devices. Think about that 65% number again. 65% of people looking for information start on a smartphone. And how do they find that information? That's how they find it. So keep in mind that having a mobile site, a specific mobile search engine optimization is critical in terms of people finding you on mobile devices. We see an average, in fact, the mobile redirect that we talked about right at the beginning sees about 35 to 40% of overall site traffic. SEO, same thing, 35 to 40% of all site traffic comes from search engines on your mobile websites. 8 to 10% from, as I said, 8 to 10% is from QR codes and marketing in that manner. And the last piece is apps. We see about another 10% of traffic coming through the apps, which shows you that people are still more comfortable using mobile websites. So what can you do for mobile SEO? Well, the first of which is content is king. It really is. Create great content. That is key. The folks that are out there that have not written a blog or an article or anything of the sort, it's a good time to start, right? What better time to start than right now? So keep that in mind. Writing great content is key. The next one is title all of your pages. Make sure every page that's throughout the system is titled. You can add descriptions to your pages. So you can add very specific descriptions about what's on that page. You can do some work to optimize your images or give your images descriptions behind the scenes. Leveraging your social presence, make sure that all your accounts are linked so that Google knows that those are your social media profiles or your social media accounts. You sign up for Google Places. If you have not signed up your business for a Google Place, do it today. It's not that hard to do, and it's very, very worthwhile. Google Place, so when you search Google and you see that map that shows up on the right-hand side and all that extra information and all that sort of stuff, that's Google Places. So make sure that you are set up on Google Places. And last but not least, creating a distinct mobile website. Now, one thing that you'll notice that I did not mention, keywords, right? All right, how many folks have used keywords before or had to input those long strings of keywords onto their website? Well, I've got some good and some bad news for you. Those are being phased out within this year. They will be no more. Gone. Keywords. Goodbye. Yeah. Okay, so, good question. Keywords, so just to give you sort of a background on what keywords are for those folks that haven't used them before. Keywords are a place where you can define what words you want Google to associate with a specific page. And the way that Google has for years has figured out what's on your page is they say, give me the title, the description, and the keywords. And based on those three things, I can tell what's on this entire page. I can figure out what's on that page. Well, people have been tricking Google, plugging in more keywords than they should that don't appear on the page and causing all sorts of problems. So what Google did is Google got together with a group called, actually started a group with Bing, Yahoo, and Yandex called schema.org. schema.org. I'm actually going to back up one here. Okay, schema.org is a, you can go check it out, schema.org. They have defined very specific pieces of information to track your site. And let me explain this a little bit better. As I said, there's title, description, and keywords. That's how Google knows. Well, with keywords gone, instead, what you're going to be able to say is, this piece of this page has to do with this information. And this piece of this page has to do with this information. And this piece of this page has to do with this. So when I say this piece of information, you can define everything from telling Google, say you're on a listing page, for example. You can tell Google everything from it's a single family residence, the geo-coordinate lat-long positions are this, the property address is this, the postal address is this house is for sale, this house's for sale price is. You can give them very structured pieces of information on your site. and that's called schema.org. Well, it's about a year and a half old since they started it. Google has already implemented it, and over the next year, it's basically taking over in terms of how Google finds you and finds your information. So make sure that you have or you work with someone who has enacted that. And this goes for mobile as well as desktop. This is both websites. All websites out there are changing over to this. So whether you have to do it on mobile, but like I said, delivering it on a desktop website is also key. Here, this is a quick list of things that your website provider should do for you in terms of search engines. Honestly, I don't expect anyone here to really understand or know how every one of those pieces work, other than to ask and say, hey, are you doing this for me? And if they're not, they're probably not doing enough. So that is some ideas in terms of what your website provider can do for you. Last but not least is tracking. Tracking and analytics. And one thing I want to make very clear, those numbers, those are realistic. Those are attainable. Okay? Those are attainable. And we'll go over it a little bit. First of all, unique visitors. Unique visitors and number of visits are not necessarily something that you can control outright. So what do I mean by that? Well, the size of your brokerage. That matters in terms of how many people come there. Your brand being bigger, your name recognition being bigger, that draws more people to your website. Your location. More people are running searches in one block around New York City than they are for the entire town of Canisius, for example, right? That's another big one. Your locale is big. So those numbers, the raw numbers of people that you get to your site are not necessarily in your control 100%. However, the rest of that is engagement. That's what people do once they get to your site. And the first one I want to talk about is bounce rate. Okay, the bounce rate is the rate at which someone gets to the very first page of your website and leaves immediately. They say, I get here and I go, well, I don't really want that. I'm not really interested in that. Move on to the next place. In real estate, industry average for bounce rate is right around 30%, meaning 30% of the people that get to your website, gone immediately. I'm not interested, I'm moving on, okay? That's kind of amazing. Only 70% stay. 0.23%. That's not 23%, that is 0.23%. Meaning over 99% when they're delivered, sorry, let me back up here. Over 99% when they're delivered an ideal solution, when they are delivered they're interested in using, and very quickly given that value proposition, over 99% go on to keep using it. In fact, that number there is for one of our clients, our client average across everybody, 2.24%. Think about that. Over 97% of people continue on to use it over and over and over again, page to page to page. In fact, they saw 7 minutes, 54 seconds average time on site. Meaning every single time someone showed up to their mobile site from a smartphone or from a tablet, right? Almost 8 minutes. They spent almost 8 minutes. That's astounding. That's amazing to think about, that you have captivated them on their smartphone, no less, for 8 minutes. Do you think after 8 minutes they might think about giving you their contact information? Sharing that with you? Do you think 8 minutes of time on that site gave them enough value? That's huge. Beyond that, we see 9.17 pages per visit, meaning that people navigate. They spend time going page to page to page and really investing time in using that site. And 56% of which is new visits, meaning that little under half of the people that find the site and use it come back. And about 50% are new visitors. That's almost ideal. Websites have natural turnover. People that no longer want to buy or already bought a house or started the process and then it takes a few months for them to get down the road, things like that. Keep things like that in mind, but 9 pages is huge and 56% new visits is huge in terms of getting new people to the site, but also retaining those folks that are using the site and are enjoying using it. Next one here is knowing your traffic sources, understanding where folks are coming from. This group saw about, 35% coming from tablets, coming from an iPad, navigating there from a tablet. And that goes back to the point that we talked about in terms of having a specific tablet view, delivering content for someone specifically on a tablet. Now, personally, I think that tablets change the experience in terms of searching for properties, and here's why. How many times have we all, say we're looking for anything on the internet, how many times has it been a couple, one sitting at the computer and the other sitting over their shoulder going, no, you scrolled too fast. No, click there. No, click there. No, over here. Right? And it becomes a fight. It becomes a struggle. Now, I don't care how awesome the pictures of your property are or how great the price is. If a couple just got in a fight over the computer usage, they are not going to see that property if you plant it in their face. However, tablets change that, and smartphones do too. Tablets allow people to sit on the couch next to each other. Maybe the TV's on. And we've seen 2 experiences, one of which is they pass the tablet back and forth to one another. Here, take a look at this, look at that, use this, use that. Or share the properties with one another, both of them using tablets sitting on the couch. If you can make that experience enjoyable and interesting for them, they're more likely to interact with you, they're more likely to give you their information, and not only that, they're more likely to spend extra time going through the site and using it and getting all of your information. So be very, very interested in how people are using it and what devices they're traveling there from. Last but not least, as I was mentioning before, 40% coming from search, 40% coming from direct traffic or that redirect. That's huge. That's a huge, huge number in terms of how you're driving people to your sites. So having this understanding is key. The next thing you want is location-based reporting and understanding not only how people are using it, but where they are when they're using it. The reason I say that is we've had a few different situations. The first one was that same group, Peabody and Smith in New Hampshire. Second one was in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Peabody thought that the vast majority of their traffic was coming from Vermont and New Hampshire. Guess what? The vast majority of their traffic was coming from the greater Boston area. So what did they do? They went and they did the Boston Ski Expo. And they did the Boston Golf Expo. And they started targeting and getting their name out in that other demographic, doing marketing in that other area, because they understood that people were finding them there, whether they were doing marketing there or not. Jonesboro, same thing. They found out that most of their traffic was coming to them from Texas, from the Houston area. So what do? They started advertising in papers there. The first key is to figure out why people are coming there from that area before you start targeting your marketing. For example, the greater Boston area, it was because people were looking for second homes or rental homes or ski homes or golf homes or things like that. So they did that analysis part before they started doing their marketing. So that's the key, understand why they're coming there.